I walked into the Byzantine court full of ambition, only to discover a world dripping with betrayal, manipulation, and lethal games of power. Cashin, the friend I trusted, turned on me, and Empress Eudocia's cruel experiments tested men and women alike, breaking loyalty and shaping ambition with terrifying precision. Every whispered secret, every subtle glance carried danger. As I navigated this gilded maze, I realized survival meant more than cunning. It demanded patience, strategy, and a cold heart. One wrong move could cost everything, including my life. I stepped into the grand hall, my heart pounding. So this is the imperial court, I whispered to myself. Gold reflected off every surface, but I sensed the shadows lurking behind the splendor. Ah, you must be the new advisor, a smooth voice said. I turned to see Cashin, his smile charming but his eyes sharp. I've heard you're ambitious. Ambition is dangerous here. Dangerous or necessary? I replied, trying to sound confident. He laughed softly. Both. Watch carefully and you might survive. Dario approached, his armor clinking lightly. I'll keep an eye on you, he said, voice low. Not everyone here plays fair. I nodded. His loyalty was clear and I felt a flicker of relief. Later I met Theon in the library. You seek knowledge, he said, eyes narrowing. But knowledge is a weapon as sharp as any sword. Then I hope I can wield it wisely, I answered. Theon's lips twitched in a rare smile. Time will tell. That evening the banquet began. Eudocia entered, all grace and calculated poise. Welcome, new advisor, she said, scanning the room. Her gaze lingered on me longer than polite manners allowed. Your Majesty, I said, bowing. Her eyes seemed to measure my every thought. She gestured toward Cashin. You trust him? She asked softly. I hesitated. I do for now. Careful. Trust is fragile in my court. Her warning sent a chill down my spine. I watched as nobles played a game she had invented. They knelt, answered riddles, and sometimes fell into disgrace for failing a simple test. Some laughed nervously, others trembled. Cashin leaned close. See? Every smile hides a dagger here. Learn fast or you'll bleed slowly. I'm learning, I murmured, but my stomach twisted. Dario's hand rested on my shoulder. Keep your head and your words. Speak carefully. Theon appeared at my side later, whispering, observe the alliances. Every gesture, every word, they mean more than you think. I realized then that the gilded walls hid teeth. Empress Eudocia's court was a living chessboard, and every piece moved with danger in mind. As I returned to my chambers that night, I couldn't shake the unease. Cashin's smile, Dario's caution, Theon's secrecy, Eudocia's calculating gaze, they all demanded attention. I whispered to myself, I will survive. I will navigate this, carefully. But deep down, a question lingered, gnawing at me. Can I truly trust anyone here? I thought I had a friend in Cashin. I was wrong. You left your notes unattended, he said casually, leaning against the balcony railing. Careless mistakes can cost a man dearly here. I didn't think, my voice faltered. Something in his expression didn't match his words. Cashin smiled, too smooth. Relax. I only looked at them. You wouldn't mind sharing a little insight with someone you trust, would you? I froze. Why would you? Information travels faster than loyalty, he said. You should know that by now. Dario appeared behind me, his hand on my shoulder. What did he do? He asked, voice low, eyes sharp. He read my reports. Shared them with Eudocia. I muttered, disbelief twisting my stomach. He betrayed me. Dario's grip tightened. I warned you. Never let your guard down with him. I shook my head, fury bubbling beneath my skin. I thought we were friends. Friends are luxuries here, Dario said quietly. Better to have allies you don't trust than enemies you do. Later, I found Marcellus, the young scribe, trembling over a stack of papers. I didn't mean to, he stammered. You didn't do anything wrong, I said, kneeling beside him. Cashin used you as bait. Be careful. He's dangerous. I knew it, he whispered. He told me to give him everything I wrote. I didn't want to, but... I clenched my fist. The betrayal spread like poison in the air. Everything I had believed about the court, about people, shifted in that moment. Theon appeared from the shadows as if sensing my turmoil. Cashin's clever, yes, he said softly. But clever men leave patterns. You must watch, not act recklessly. I want to act, I said, my voice tight. I want him to pay. Patience, Theon warned. Emotions cloud judgment. Let him make the next move. That's when you strike. Eudocia entered suddenly, her presence like ice. What's this tension I feel? she asked, glancing at Cassian and me. Nothing, your majesty, I replied quickly, bowing. Her eyes lingered, piercing. Be careful whom you call friend. Court games are not kind to fools. That night I sat alone, the betrayal echoing in my mind. Cassian's charm, once so reassuring, now felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I realized I had underestimated the cruelty of this place. Dario sat nearby, polishing his sword. We survive by understanding people, he said. Not by trusting them. I know, I muttered. But inside I felt the sting of naivety. I had learned my first lesson in the court's deadly game. And yet, a spark of determination flickered. Cassian had made a mistake too. He underestimated me. I whispered to myself, clenching my fists. I won't forget this. One day he'll see the cost of betrayal. The court had claimed my trust, and I would reclaim my power. I couldn't shake the whispers I'd overheard about the inner chambers. Something cruel, something twisted. The court has its secrets, Theon said when I found him in the library. But some are better seen than heard. What do you mean? I asked, leaning closer. He lowered his voice. The Empress, she has a way of testing loyalty. Men and women alike. A practice designed to break men to shape women into tools of power. I swallowed hard. Tools? Like slaves? He shook his head slowly. Not slaves. Weapons. Fear, desire, manipulation, she wields them all. My stomach churned. And people just go along with it? Some do. Others don't survive. He glanced at me sharply. You must tread carefully. I nodded, but the thought gnawed at me. Cassian's betrayal suddenly felt small compared to this. I had been blind. Later, I cornered Marcellus in the scriptorium. Have you seen anything unusual in the palace? I asked quietly. He looked down at his hands. I saw some nobles taken into the private chambers. They never returned the same. Some left broken. Others, worse. I clenched my fist. Worse how? His eyes filled with fear. I don't want to say. You can trust me, I pressed. He shook his head. If they knew I spoke, I'd be gone before morning. I sighed, my anger mixing with helplessness. The court's cruelty ran deeper than I imagined. Theon appeared again, leaning against a pillar. You're learning fast, he said. Knowledge is power, but power is dangerous. You have a choice. Strike now and risk everything, or wait for the perfect moment. I paced. I want to act. I want to expose her. But I can't. Not yet. Good, Theon replied. Patience is a weapon. Timing is your ally. I felt trapped, powerless, yet a spark of strategy lit inside me. If I played this right, I could survive. Maybe more, I could influence events from the shadows. That evening, I saw Eudocia glide through the hall. Her eyes caught mine briefly, a small, unreadable smile on her lips. She radiated control, dominance, and a terrifying calm. Cassian approached her, bowing deeply. Your Majesty, he said smoothly. I caught a hint of arrogance in his tone. He didn't know I suspected him. You've been busy, she replied softly, voice sweet but sharp. But remember, loyalty is more than obedience. I stepped back, my pulse racing. I realized then that knowledge alone wasn't enough. I needed allies, strategy, and caution. Dario appeared beside me, whispering, Don't let fear control you. Watch, learn, and strike when the time is right. I nodded, staring at Eudocia. The court was no longer just dangerous, it was horrifying. But I felt something else now, a hunger. I won't be a pawn, I muttered to myself. I will survive. I will rise. And when the moment comes, they'll all see my hand. I realized I couldn't face the court alone. Cassian's cunning and Eudocia's cruelty demanded allies, careful, loyal, silent. Theon, I said, finding him near the library stacks. I need help. I can't survive this on my own. He looked at me, eyebrows raised. You've seen enough to understand. But help comes with risk. Who do you trust? I don't know, I admitted. Maybe Dario, and I hesitated. There's a servant, Lysandra. She sees things others miss. Theon's lips twitched. Careful. She's clever. She might betray you, or save you. I'll take that risk, I said firmly. I have no choice. Later, in a quiet corridor, I approached Lysandra. I need your eyes and ears, I whispered. She tilted her head. Why me? Because you notice what others ignore, I said. Because you're smart. Because you can keep a secret. She smiled faintly. I like secrets, she said. I'll help, for a price. I'll consider it paid, I replied, feeling a thrill. Together we began watching, listening, learning. Cassian of course noticed me more often. "You look troubled," he said one afternoon, leaning casually against a balcony railing. "Is the court too much for you?" I forced a smile. "Not at all. I'm learning." He narrowed his eyes. "Careful. Learning can make you dangerous." "I'll remember," I said. My pulse raced. He didn't know I suspected him, or that I was building a plan. Dario met me later near the armory. "You're stirring something," he said, glancing around. "Cassian feels it. Stay sharp." "I will," I promised. "But we need to gather more information, alliances, something Cassian can't anticipate." That night Lysandra brought news. "I overheard nobles plotting against each other," she said, whispering. "Their alliances are fragile. You could use that." I nodded. "Perfect. Watch and learn. When the time is right, we strike subtly. Nothing obvious. Cassian won't see it coming." Theon appeared again, leaning against the wall. "Patience, strategy, observation. You've got the makings of a formidable player, but remember, a single mistake can cost your life." "I understand," I said. "I won't make a mistake." Later, I watched Cassian smile at a courtier, laughing easily. I clenched my fist. One day he'd realize his overconfidence was his weakness. Eudocia passed by, her gaze cold and precise. "You seem busy," she said softly, voice carrying authority. "Merely observing your majesty," I replied, bowing. I could feel her studying me, weighing me, testing me silently. "Very well," she said, turning. But I knew her eyes would not leave me. I felt the weight of her presence, a constant reminder of the danger surrounding me. Back in my chambers, I spread out notes, whispered strategies, and observed patterns. Cassian, Eudocia, the nobles, they all moved like pieces on a board, predictable if watched closely. Dario sat across from me, sharpening his blade. "You're ready for the next step," he said. "I am," I whispered, my fingers tracing the edge of a map. "We move carefully. And when the time comes, everyone will see who really controls the shadows." For the first time, fear and determination merged. I was no longer just surviving. I was learning, plotting, becoming a player in a game where mistakes meant death, and victories meant power. I should have seen it coming. I should have known Cassian would strike first. "You've been careful," he said, leaning against the doorway with that infuriating smile. "But care only goes so far." "What are you talking about?" I asked, trying to sound calm. "Marcellus," he said smoothly. "Poor loyal Marcellus. He mentioned things he shouldn't have. Things you shared with him." My stomach dropped. You used him?" He shrugged. "He's useful. He always was. And now he's bait." I clenched my fist. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you're naive," he said, voice low. "And because I can." Dario appeared suddenly, stepping between us. "Back off," he growled. "One more move and I'll stop you myself." Cassian laughed, a cold, sharp sound. "Ah, the loyal guard. Always in the way, aren't you?" "Loyalty isn't weakness," Dario snapped. I felt a surge of anger. "Cassian, enough." I shouted. "I won't let you harm him." Cassian's smile didn't waver. "Oh, you already have. You just don't realize it yet." I rushed to Marcellus, finding him cornered near the scriptorium. "Stay behind me," I ordered. "He won't touch you while I'm here." Marcellus trembled. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "You didn't do anything wrong," I said firmly. "Cassian set this trap. You're a pawn, nothing more." Theon appeared from the shadows. "Step carefully," he whispered. "They're watching, listening. One wrong word." "I know," I muttered, clenching my teeth. Cassian circled us, like a predator testing its prey. "Impressive," he said. "You've grown bolder. But boldness can be a flaw." I squared my shoulders. "Not bold. Careful. Calculated." "Careful or not," he replied, "you can't see every angle. Someone will slip. And tonight, it's him or you." He nodded toward Marcellus. Dario tightened his grip on his sword. "You don't scare me," he said. "I don't need to scare you," Cassian replied. "I just need to remind you where the power lies." I realized then that fear could be a weapon. Not theirs, it could be mine. "Enough games," I said, voice steady. "If you want a fight, you'll get one. But I won't let Marcellus be your pawn." Cassian studied me, his eyes calculating. Finally he backed away. "Patience then," he said, voice soft. "We'll meet again." As he disappeared into the shadows, I exhaled shakily. Marcellus clung to me, whispering, "Thank you." I thought I was done for. "You're safe," I promised, feeling a surge of protectiveness. For now. But we'll need to be smarter. More careful. Theon's eyes met mine, sharp and knowing. Every trap reveals a weakness. Learn from this. Next time you'll be ready. I nodded, determination burning. The court was a battlefield and tonight I'd survived, but the war was far from over. I whispered to myself, gripping the edge of the scriptorium table, next time, I make the rules. Cassian thought he was untouchable. Tonight I would show him how wrong he was. Theon, I whispered in the library, everything is in place. Are you sure? He nodded, eyes cold. Every secret, every whisper, every piece of evidence is ready. One move and he crumbles. Dario adjusted his armor. You'll have him cornered. No mistakes. I won't, I said firmly. This ends tonight. Cassian appeared as predicted, striding down the corridor with that infuriating smile. I wondered when you'd make a move. Bold but foolish. Bold or foolish, I replied, voice steady. We'll see who controls the court. He laughed softly. You think you can outplay me? Outmaneuver me? You're still a child. I'm no child, I said. I've learned from every trick, every betrayal. And tonight, you learn the cost of arrogance. He tilted his head. And what, pray tell, is that cost? I signaled to Theon, who handed me the carefully collected papers. Letters, reports, confessions, all pointing to Cassian's treachery. Do you recognize these? I asked, holding them up. Your deals, your betrayals, your lies, all exposed. Cassian's smile faltered. How did? Theon helped, I said, ignoring him. Your alliances are crumbling. Your influence is gone. Your manipulations are visible to the court. He glanced around nervously. You can't, this isn't fair. Fair? I laughed softly. You don't know the meaning of the word. You betrayed everyone, including me. Dario stepped forward. Your Majesty, he said, bowing to the approaching Eudocia, we have evidence of Cassian's treachery. Eudocia's eyes flicked to me, sharp and calculating. Interesting, she said softly. Very interesting. Cassian's face went pale. You've involved her? I shook my head. I did this. You built the trap. Now face the consequences. The hall erupted with murmurs as the documents were revealed. Nobles gasped, whispered, and pointed. Cassian tried to defend himself, but his words fell on deaf ears. Every ally he had once counted on now avoided his gaze. You see, I whispered to Theon. Patience. Cassian's eyes met mine, a mixture of rage and disbelief. This isn't over. It is for you, I said softly. Your lies are undone. Your schemes exposed. And no one will save you now. He stumbled back, humiliated, powerless. The court that once feared his cunning now watched his downfall with satisfaction. Marcellus, trembling but alive, stepped forward. Thank you for protecting me, he said quietly. You're safe, I replied. For now. But remember, watch carefully. Trust no one blindly. Eudocia approached, her gaze piercing. You've done well, she said softly. But power is more than revenge. Control, subtlety, that is what ensures survival. I nodded. I understand, Your Majesty. I've learned. Dario rested a hand on my shoulder. You've grown stronger, he said. And wiser. I exhaled, relief mixing with the lingering sting of anger. I had achieved what I sought, Cassian's ruin, but I also realized something more profound. Survival was not just revenge. It was patience, strategy, and understanding the shadows around you. As I looked at Cassian, humiliated and broken, I whispered to myself, this court will no longer control me. I control my fate now. For the first time I felt power, not the violent thrill of revenge alone, but the quiet, precise satisfaction of strategy fulfilled. The court had returned to a fragile balance, but I felt the weight of everything that had happened. You did well, Dario said quietly as we watched the nobles bustle through the corridors. Cassian's downfall will be remembered. I know, I replied, but the satisfaction was tempered. It doesn't erase the cost. Marcellus, he's scarred. He survived, Dario reminded me. That's enough for now. I shook my head, thinking of the lessons burned into me. Every glance, every whisper, every smile in this place carried a threat. Even Eudocia's praise was laced with caution. Your Majesty, I heard her voice behind me. Eudocia's presence was as imposing as ever, yet she moved with grace. You've learned quickly. But remember, power is not only taken. It is observed, controlled, and never flaunted. I understand, Your Majesty, I said, bowing. Her eyes studied me as though weighing every thought I held. She smiled faintly. You are different now. Careful. Patient. Dangerous in ways I appreciate and respect. I allowed myself a small nod. I've survived because of lessons, not luck. Lysandra appeared beside me, whispering, the court will never see you the same way again. You've shifted the balance. I know, I said. But balance is fragile. I need to stay vigilant. The next challenge could appear at any moment. Theon approached, book in hand. You've gained control, he said softly. But remember, power is a shadow. It moves with you, unseen and yet present. Be wise and it will protect you. Be careless and it will destroy you. I nodded. I've learned patience, observation and strategy. I've survived betrayal, traps and cruelty. Now I can see clearly. Dario's gaze swept across the hall. You've changed. Stronger, sharper, smarter. And yet, you've held on to your humanity. I looked at him, thinking of everything we had endured, the traps, the manipulations, the fear. I've held on, but I carry the weight of what's happened. Marcellus, Cassian, all the others. The court takes pieces of you, but I've decided which pieces to keep. Eudocia's eyes caught mine one last time before she turned to leave. Remember, she said, shadows are not always enemies. Sometimes they are the only allies you have. I whispered to myself, watching her disappear among the gilded pillars. I understand. And I will use them wisely. Marcellus approached, hesitant but steady. Thank you, he said. For everything. For giving me a chance. You're alive, I said softly. That's the first step. Learn from this. Survive. Grow stronger. As I stood on the balcony overlooking the courtyard, the evening sky stretching wide, I reflected on the journey. Betrayal had sharpened me, cruelty had hardened me, and patience had guided me. I realized now that survival was not just about living, it was about understanding, adapting, and knowing when to strike. I whispered into the wind, I will not be a pawn. I will not be forgotten. And I will not allow fear to control me. The court moved beneath me, gilded and dangerous, yet I felt a sense of calm. I had endured. I had learned. And I was ready for whatever shadows came next. For the first time, I understood the delicate balance of power, and the quiet strength of a man who had survived it all.